You think your crossover is practical, but you've been sold a fantasy. The American family car is supposed to mean space for 9 people, effortless road trips, and room for a sheet of plywood. Yet today, we pay thousands more for SUV vehicles that deliver less and cost more to keep running. The truth is, Detroit didn't just let the station wagon die, they engineered its execution for profit, leaving families with a weaker replacement and a bill for the privilege. What actually happened inside the industry, and what did every American family really lose? The answers start here. In the heyday of American suburbia, the wood-paneled station wagon became a status symbol parked in driveways across the country. But behind the polished veneer and the family-friendly image, owners were locked into a relentless cycle of maintenance. The real wood siding was not just decorative, it demanded constant attention. Each spring and fall, owners in the 1950s and the 1960s described the ritual, sanding, sealing, and reapplying varnish to every inch of exposed panel. Miss A season, and water would seep in, warping panels and inviting rot. Dealership service records from the era are filled with warranty claims for peeling varnish, swelling joints, and repairs for water damage after even a mild rainstorm. This was not a quirk, it was a hidden tax on prestige. Families paid not just at the dealership, but every weekend in the driveway, fighting off decay with brushes and buckets. The promise of luxury was a labor contract disguised as style. Historian James Flaming says the real secret of the woodie was its cost, not just at purchase, but every season after. Manufacturers knew the truth. By the late 1940s, companies like Willys and Plymouth were already rolling out all-steel wagons, not because they wanted to innovate, but because the cost and hassle of real wood had become impossible to justify. The new steel bodies solved the rot problem, but automakers were not ready to abandon the image. Instead, they turned to vinyl appliques, fake wood grain glued onto steel panels. The look stayed, but the substance was gone. The wagon's prestige became a marketing illusion, maintained with a decal rather than a paintbrush. This shift was not about consumer choice or progress. It was about escaping the hidden costs that had piled up behind every shiny wood panel. The American family was sold a fantasy of effortless style, but the reality was hours lost to upkeep and a product designed to look practical while draining wallets and weekends. The woodie's downfall was written in maintenance logs long before the last one left the factory. The lesson is clear. Image always came first, even when it meant hiding a mountain of work behind a thin layer of gloss. Under the surface of every station wagon sale, the numbers never added up. Building a wagon meant starting with a sedan and then making it more complicated and more expensive at every step. The frame had to be stretched, the roof extended, and the body reinforced to handle extra weight and cargo. Glass costs soared because a wagon required more windows, each one custom cut for the longer profile and the rear hatch. Seating was not just about adding more cushions. Third-row benches and their mounting hardware demanded stronger floors and extra safety engineering. The rear suspension needed to be tougher, with beefed-up springs and shocks to handle the load of 9 passengers or a full sheet of plywood. Every upgrade added dollars to the bill of materials. Internal accounting from Detroit's archives spells it out. The average wagon cost several $100s more to build than its sedan sibling. In the 1970s, Chrysler's planners tracked margin gaps of $500 to $900 per unit, which were painfully thin in an industry built on volume. Product planning memos from Ford and General Motors show similar math. The extra glass, unique tailgate stampings, and heavy-duty chassis parts pushed the cost delta higher, but sticker prices barely budged. Dealers could not charge much more for a wagon than a sedan because buyers expected practicality, not luxury. The result was a slow leak of profit on every wagon that left the factory. Warranty claims only made things worse. More moving parts meant more things to break. Power rear windows, complex folding seats, and intricate tailgates all generated higher service costs than sedans. Factory accountants flagged these issues year after year, but the wagon's image as a family essential kept it on the order sheet until the numbers became impossible to ignore. By the late 1970s, Chrysler's Town and Country and General Motors full-size wagons were clearing less than $800 per vehicle, while sedans routinely brought in $1,200 or more. The engineering cost squeeze was no secret inside Detroit's boardrooms. It was the quiet warning no one wanted to hear, even as the industry pressed on, hoping volume would make up the difference. The wagon's fate was sealed long before gas prices or cultural tides turned against it. The math was always upside down. In late 1973, the price of gasoline in America shot up overnight. The number on the pump jumped from 39 cents to $1.19 in less than 2 years. The oil embargo, triggered by OPEC's retaliation against United States foreign policy, did not just pinch wallets. It shattered the foundation of the American family car market. Full-size station wagons loaded with V8 engines and weighing over 2 tons suddenly became liabilities. The average wagon returned just 8 to 12 miles per gallon. Filling the tank was no longer a background expense. It became a weekly crisis for families used to cross-country road trips and daily school runs. Energy Information Administration charts from the era show a cliff. Wagon sales, already strained by thin margins, collapsed. Production numbers for Chrysler's Town and Country tell the story in raw data. Nearly 70,000 units sold in 1973, plummeting to fewer than 10,000 by 1977. The retreat was not gradual. It was an evacuation. Chrysler's executive team, facing mounting losses, circulated internal memos describing the full-size wagon as an anchor dragging down the fleet. By the end of the decade, the company abandoned the segment altogether, leaving the Town and Country name to be reborn on the front of a minivan. The shock was not limited to Chrysler. Ford and GM scrambled to downsize engines and lighten bodies, but the math was unforgiving. No amount of engineering could hide the fact that the wagon's core promise, room for 9, space for plywood, effortless highway cruising, now came at a price few could justify. The family hauler had become a symbol of excess at the very moment American households were learning the meaning of scarcity. Former Chrysler staff recalled the tension in boardrooms as the numbers rolled in. One internal memo preserved in the company archives stated there is no path to profitability for the full-size wagon under current fuel prices. The oil crisis did not just make wagons expensive to own, it made them impossible to build at a profit. The era of the land yacht was over, not because families stopped needing space, but because the cost of keeping those wheels turning had become too great to bear. When Chrysler unveiled the Dodge Caravan in 1983, the American family car was reimagined overnight. Lee Iacocca, the mastermind behind the project, did not just pitch another utility vehicle, he offered an escape from the wagon's baggage. The Caravan's sliding side door became an instant icon, solving a problem every parent knew too well: wrestling kids and groceries through a heavy, rear-hinged tailgate. The minivan's shorter body made parking in crowded lots less of a gamble, while upright seating and a flat floor meant easier entry and real comfort for everyone on board. Internal launch documents from Chrysler laid out the strategy in black and white. The minivan was not just about function, it was about image. Focus groups called wagons boring and old-fashioned. The Caravan was designed to be the opposite, a vehicle you could be proud to drive, with a shape that broke from the long, low lines of its predecessor. Iacocca's own words from the 1983 press conference cut through the noise. "We aimed to create a car that families wanted to be seen in, not just a box for the uncool." The minivan did not just replace wagon utility, it erased the stigma. By the mid-1980s, the Caravan and its Plymouth Voyager sibling were outselling most wagons combined. Chrysler's marketing hammered home the practical wins: more space, better mileage, sliding doors for the chaos of school drop-off. But beneath the surface, the real victory was psychological. The minivan let buyers trade in the conformity of the wagon for something that felt modern and intentional. No more apologizing for practicality. Dealership sales reports from 1984 show repeat buyers citing the sliding door and ease of access as top reasons for switching. The Caravan's overall length was nearly 2 feet shorter than a typical full-size wagon, yet it offered similar cargo volume and better fuel efficiency. Minivans soon became the new face of family mobility, and the wagon's reputation, once built on utility, was left behind, branded as a relic of suburban sameness. The industry had found its image killer, and the American driveway would never look the same. In the late 1970s, a single line in the Federal Register rewrote the rules of the American car market. The government classified SUVs and pickups as light trucks, granting them softer fuel economy targets under the new corporate average fuel economy standards. The language was technical: vehicles under 8,500 pounds designed for cargo or up to 5 passengers, but the impact was immediate. Automakers realized they could build vehicles that looked like trucks but functioned as family haulers and face far less regulatory pressure than with wagons or sedans. Inside GM product planners ran the numbers. They compared the Caprice wagon, loaded with custom glass, heavy-duty suspension, and a margin that barely cleared $1,200 per unit, with a Tahoe or Suburban built on a nearly identical platform but classified as a truck. The profit line exploded: $6,000 to $8,000 per vehicle, according to internal planning sheets from 1988. Bob Lutz, then a senior executive, was blunt in later interviews when he said they stopped building wagons because they could make more money on trucks. The corporate average fuel economy loophole was not a secret. John German, a fuel economy expert who reviewed the rulebook, described how manufacturers engineered vehicles to just fit the light truck definition, maximizing profit and minimizing regulatory cost. The Federal Register even anticipated this, noting that manufacturers would likely modify vehicle designs to ensure continued qualification as light trucks under the proposed rules criteria and minimize compliance costs. The pivot was swift. Plants that once stamped out full-size wagons retooled for SUVs. GM's Arlington factory, for example, shifted from wagons to Suburbans in the early 1990s, chasing the higher margin mix. Dealers pushed the new models with promises of adventure and capability, but the real story played out on spreadsheets. Trucks and SUVs delivered 4 to 8 times the profit of a wagon or sedan, all because of a regulatory loophole and a carefully engineered product strategy. By the end of the decade, SEC filings from GM and Ford show that trucks accounted for nearly 90% of North American profits, despite being less than 60% of sales volume. The light truck loophole, paired with rising sticker prices, did not just change what Americans drove. It dictated what manufacturers built and what they abandoned. The station wagon was not outcompeted. It was outmaneuvered and sacrificed for margins that wagons could never match. Step into a dealership today and the so-called family utility vehicle on offer is almost always a crossover. The pitch is familiar: rugged looks, high seating, adventure-ready. But beneath the plastic cladding and the marketing, the mechanical truth is hard to ignore. The Honda CR-V and Toyota RAV4 ride on the same platforms as their sedan siblings. The Subaru Outback, often hailed as the original lifted wagon, shares its underpinnings with the legacy sedan. The real difference is a couple of inches in ride height, some black trim, and a price tag that climbs thousands above the wagon it quietly replaced. Edmunds pricing data lays it bare. A 2025 Honda CR-V EX stickers for $30,850, while the Accord EX, nearly identical underneath, sells for $28,990. The Toyota RAV4X LE fetches $30,900, a full $2,500 more than a Camry SE with the same powertrain. Subaru's Outback, the closest thing left to a true wagon, commands a $4,000 premium over the legacy sedan. These aren't isolated cases. Across the board, crossovers cost $2,000 to $7,000 more than their sedan or wagon equivalents. The justification isn't found in engineering or materials, it's found in the showroom, where image sells for more than substance. Jessica Caldwell, an analyst at Edmunds, sums it up. "You're paying for the image, not more car." The crossover has become the industry's most profitable illusion, a wagon in disguise, repackaged to extract more from the same buyer. The real innovation isn't under the hood, it is in convincing Americans to pay extra for less car, all while thinking they have moved up. Open the hatch on a modern crossover, and the illusion of utility falls apart. The typical Honda CR-V or Toyota RAV, 4 seats 5, not 9. Try loading a 4x8 sheet of plywood and the hatch won't close, because the cargo bay just isn't long enough. Compare that to a 1991 Ford Country Squire, where the same sheet slides in flat, hatch down, with room to spare. Third-row jump seats once made it possible to haul a whole Little League team. Today's crossovers can barely manage a carpool. Manufacturers claim progress, but the numbers tell a different story. The average Toyota RAV4 or Honda CR-V offers less real-world cargo space than the wagons they supposedly replaced. Rear seats do not fold flat. Rooflines slope for style, not storage. The basic promise of the family wagon, maximum space, minimum fuss, has been traded for a few inches of extra ride height and a tough-sounding badge. Meanwhile, the rest of the world kept building wagons that do the job. In Europe, the Volvo V90 and Audi A4 Avant still offer more cargo room and lower running costs than any comparable SUV. Overseas, wagons are sold as practical tools, not lifestyle statements. Even electric vehicles now chase the crossover look, hiding wagon bones under plastic cladding and oversized wheels. The core capability is gone, replaced by marketing. American buyers lost the ability to haul more people and more stuff, all for the sake of an image that never delivered on the promise of real utility. Today's auto market still rewards profit over practicality. Americans now pay thousands more for crossovers that offer less space and higher maintenance, all because of regulatory loopholes and marketing spin. The lesson? As long as image and margins drive design, real utility loses. The next time you walk a dealer's lot, remember the car that makes the most sense isn't always the one they want you to buy.